Want to see more cool videos on our channel? We do, so press this bell and enable to send notifications.
Number 10. Bridgewater Triangle, Massachusetts. Bridgewater Triangle is a 200-mile expanse that lies within the southeastern part of Massachusetts, just a few miles south of Boston. But what makes this so interesting, perhaps, is that it's also famous for supernatural, extraterrestrial, cryptozoological, just plain old murderous activity. The Bridgewater Triangle first came to media attention in the 1970s when people hiking throughout its forests claimed to have seen reptile-like birds resembling pterodactyls. Just a few years later, another man hiking through the woods claims to have seen a savage hound so large that it was able to eviscerate 2 of his horses. On another occasion, a different group of people claimed to have seen cult activity in the area. The group claims to have been hiking through the woods when they would stumble upon a clearing with around 20 mysterious individuals dressed in old-fashioned robes and clothing. The group was so unnerved by the sight that they quickly decided to move on before they were noticed. As they took their first steps to walk away, the strange group of individuals all stood up and looked toward them. This would cause the hiking group to go into full-on panic and a sprint until they were able to exit the woods. When they reached the edge of the woods, they claimed that they could hear a loud wailing coming from inside the forest. Over the decades, there have been many disappearances in the Triangle, and this wouldn't be the first time that Massachusetts has endured a spell of supernatural hysteria. Might we remind you of the Salem witch trials? Number 9. The Dyatlov Pass. On the morning of February 2nd, 1959, a group of students set out on their hike to Dyatlov Pass, telling their friends that they would be in contact by the 12th. When the call didn't come, they sent out a search party over a week later, and it would take another 6 days before they found the first signs of interaction. As they walked along the path that the students took, they came across their tents, which had been ripped open from the inside. They also found almost all of their belongings along with their clothing. To the right of the tent, they saw footprints leading away that appeared as though the students were barefoot. As they followed the footprints, they began to find bodies, and about a half-mile from the tent, they found the remains of a fire along with the first 2 bodies nearly naked, only in their underwear. As they continued to scour the scene, they noticed a set of 3 more footprints which led back to the tent, and 3 bodies which were spread around 100 and 150 meters apart. The furthest body was 630 meters from the tent, and the other 2 students fell well before that. The remaining 4 were found months later, buried under just a few meters of snow. However, unlike their friends, it would seem that they died of hypothermia. Many of them had severe skull and chest fractures, while one was missing her eyes and her tongue. The coroner would say that the fractures could not have been dealt by any kind of human and were far too specific to have a product of an avalanche be involved. But what baffled investigators the most was that there were no other tracks leading to the bodies other than those of the students themselves. The official cause of death in the coroner's report would be an unknown compelling force. And to this day, almost 60 years later, the scene remains unsolved. What do you guys think happened? Number 8. Point Pleasant, West Virginia. West Virginia can be a scary place. The name of Point Pleasant might ring a bell because it was the backdrop for the popular Richard Gere movie, The Mothman Prophecies. In that time, there were nearly 1,000 citizens who claimed to see a large man or creature over 7 foot tall lurking around the city. After some time, the creature was nicknamed the Mothman. The final sighting of Mothman occurred on December 15th of 1967, that day when the famous Silver Bridge collapsed. It has been alleged that the Mothman was standing on the side of the bridge just moments before it fell, and people driving over the bridge during rush hour have reported seeing a large man dressed in strange gray clothing. The collapse of the bridge killed 42 people, and the Mothman was never seen again. Number 7. The Devil's Sea, also known as Dragon's Triangle and the Pacific Bermuda Triangle. This is a region of the Pacific Ocean that's south of Japan, in which several ships have disappeared, notably the Japanese research vessel Kayo Maru No. 5 in the early 1950s. sailors have reported problems with electronic instruments and sightings of unmanned ghost ships. American author and linguist Charles Berlitz made the area around Miyake Island famous with his book, The Dragon's Triangle, in 1989. Although authorities claim the Cairo Maru was destroyed by natural forces while the crew was investigating the eruption of an underwater volcano, Berlitz attributed the incident to unknown supernatural forces and even blamed the Dragon's Triangle for the disappearance of aviation pioneer Amelia Earhart. Number 6. Area 51. U.S. Air Force facility or storehouse for extraterrestrial technologies. Located deep in the Nevada desert, this remote research installation has been used as a test site for experimental aircraft and weapons, with the dry bed of Groom Lake providing an ideal airfield. But the secrecy around the site and a string of alleged UFO sightings have stimulated allegations that the base houses crashed and reverse-engineered alien spacecraft, and even alien collaborators. While skeptics suggest the UFOs were reflections of light on the broad fuselage of aircraft such as the Lockheed U-2, people claiming to be former employees report having worked hand in four-fingered gray hand with extraterrestrial engineers in a vast underground facility. Number 5. San Luis Valley in Colorado. This is a place where a cattle rancher came out to find almost all of his livestock had been completely murdered, skinned alive, with their organs almost surgically removed. Well, perhaps the most interesting part is that many of these animals were bled dry. This would become a center of alien conspiracy theory, as no clear explanations could ever be given as to why livestock was being slaughtered in mass numbers with barely a trace of blood. In one case, the only evidence that was found were 3 concentric burn marks near the corpses of the livestock. UFO enthusiasts believe that these are actually thrust marks from an extraterrestrial spaceship. There are also trace levels of radiation found on the sites of many of these massacres. Such an enormous massacre would have surely caused some kind of noise, right? Well, wrong. Almost all of the farmers who have experienced this phenomenon have not heard a single noise the night before. One of the more eerie things to come out of the entire fiasco was an overarching sentiment among the farmers that they felt as though they were being watched. And for some reason, they could tell that whatever was watching them was not human. Number 4. Island of the Dolls. As you navigate this creepy island just south of Mexico City, thousands of small, unblinking eyes watch your passage. The island is actually man-made, dating all the way back to the floating gardens of Aztec times. As legend has it, owner Julian Santana Barrera found a little drowned girl in the canal and a doll floating close by, which he hung in a tree as a sign of respect. But shortly following this act, he started to hear whispers, footsteps, and screams following him in the dark. Santana Barrera spent the next half-century hanging dolls to pacify the girl's spirit. When he died in 2001, his body was eerily found in the same spot he had found the drowned girl. Number 3. The Michigan Triangle. Often compared to the Bermuda Triangle, this region in Lake Michigan is the site of numerous maritime and aviation disasters. Particularly notorious is the strait linking Lake Michigan and Green Bay, known as Port des Morts, or Death's Door, which is littered with shipwrecks thanks to the hidden shoals and unpredictable winds. The most famous incident was the crash of Northwest Orient Airlines Flight 2501 in 1950, which killed all 58 passengers and crew, and was the worst airline accident to happen in the United States to that point. Only light debris and human body fragments were recovered, although mass burial sites were recently discovered in local cemeteries. Annual searches for the wreckage continue. Number 2. North Sentinel Island. An isolated indigenous tribe has lived on this island in the Bay of Bengal for an estimated 60,000 years. Fringed by perilous reefs, the island is difficult to reach, and boats that do land are met with a hail of arrows. As a result, little is known about the Sentinelese. Their language is unclassified, and population estimates range from 50 to 400. So it wasn't much of a surprise when John Allen Chow, a 26-year-old American Christian missionary come thrill-seeking explorer who visited the island, was felled by a poison arrow and then dragged around the white sand beaches by a piece of twine until he was dead. Number 1. The South Atlantic Anomaly. You've heard of the Bermuda Triangle. You may have even heard of its Pacific counterpart, the Devil's Sea near Japan. But did you know about the South Atlantic Anomaly? It's a region over South America, and it's big, a little larger than the entire United States. Some say it's a danger to anything entering it, and they point most specifically to the crash of Air France Flight 447 in June of 2009, in which 228 people died. For years, there have been numerous technological failures. Things simple as a compass to technology as complex as the International Space Station. Many ships and aircraft that pass through the area have allegedly gone missing, and because of the technological interference in the area, many of the aircrafts and ships are never found because technology is needed to search for them. The magnetic interference is so great in the area that even the Hubble Space Telescope doesn't record while passing through the field. Thank you so much for watching, and if you enjoyed the video, please let me know by clicking the like button. Do share, write a comment, and don't forget to subscribe so that you can catch up my next video.